everyone, this is the Mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today. I really wanted to hop on here quickly to discuss the recent Love and Marriage Huntsville trailer. Now, admittedly, I have not watched the show in several weeks, at least 6 or 7 weeks. The last episode I watched was with Kimmy, Kaiwa, and Maurice, discussing the visitation and Maurice Jr.'s attitude and his behavior and so on. So I kind of disconnected from the show. I haven't been watching anything on social media, on YouTube, nothing. I've disconnected from the show for many reasons that I've discussed in the past, and my work schedule has been really hectic. So I watched the trailer and I noticed that there are completely new plot lines, I guess, in a way, sort of, kind of, and I was like, okay, why would I want to watch this show? Why would I continue watching this show? I needed an angle or some sort of hook to get me connected to the show again. And I did not see it in the trailer. Now, I am not suggesting that you guys say or do or think the way that I think. These are just my thoughts and feelings and opinions. I'm not telling anyone how to act or behave or how to feel about the show. It's just me. But I wanted to figure out why I was not as engaged with the show as I have been in the past. And one of the things that I realized was that the show lacks the authenticity that it once had. Many times I've mentioned in the past why I've liked the show in the beginning, why I was so hooked to the show. I was invested in the characters. I wanted to see Martell and Melody win. I knew what they were trying to accomplish with their marriage and their businesses and the image that they were trying to project into the world. So I appreciated that. It was a refreshing contrast to a lot of ratchet reality TV that we have been watching for the past 20 years. Not we, but we. Yes, society. I was tired of seeing, successful quote-unquote black people arguing in nice restaurants, snatching off wigs, not being really productive, just living off of someone else's hard work and their dime. I'm not impressed with that type of lifestyle. So I didn't want to see another reality show with that type of dynamic. I feel like this show was different and it was exceptional in the first several seasons because, we were focusing on a Southern black middle class normal family that was trying to make it. They were trying to become role models and exemplars of black excellence, right? And so I appreciated that. Even though I knew that the cast wasn't perfect and, I knew that they were striving to become what they wanted us, the audience, to believe they already were, I appreciated the effort. I appreciated the intent. I mentioned this more than once. When Melody and Martell started to showcase their marital problems, I was a bit concerned that it would derail the show. I initially felt that the focus on the infidelity was a slippery slope towards ratchet reality TV. And I think I was correct. But at the same time, I think it was a good idea to highlight the divorce and focus on the dissolution of their marriage in real time. Because it gave us opportunity to have discussions about mental health problems, personality disorders, abuse in relationships. It was a great way for us to, as an audience, to have more nuanced discussions about the realities of marriage, the realities of getting into business with your spouse, the realities of having to navigate the public persona and the private relationship. That was one of the most fascinating aspects of the show. Seeing how Martell and Melody were trying to navigate this power couple dynamic that they had created while their marriage was collapsing behind the scenes. That contrast and that conflict was just amazing to watch. Not in a good way. I wasn't happy to see their marriage fall apart. It was actually really upsetting for me and many people who watched the show. But it was the first time I think that we saw a marriage dissolve and implode and explode in real time. Literally to the day, to the minute, to the hour, we knew what was going on with these people. That had never, in my opinion, from my experience, I don't know, I could be wrong, happened on reality TV. And not with a couple that was so alluring and who so many people wanted to win. One of the reasons why I believe the show was so successful initially was because people really wanted to see Martell and Melody win. They wanted to see this successful, attractive black couple be positive role models and citizens And the fact that they were married made it even more amazing, because only 25-30% of black women in America are married. So it was an anomaly to see on television anyway, a young millennial black couple trying to do the damn thing when it comes to business, when it comes to community work, when it comes to raising a family. It was just amazing to see this dynamic. And after the divorce, of course, that dynamic changed among Martell and Melody, but also the cast members. So now that it's changed, and we're now like 2 years out from the divorce being finalized, I feel like what's happening is that production is trying to recapture that lightning in the bottle. The lightning in the bottle that was Martell and Melody's relationship. And it's going to be hard to recreate or to duplicate that magic. Martell and Melody were a very attractive couple, not just physically, but energetically. They just looked good together. They worked well together. They're interesting people individually, not because of their drama per se, but they have interesting backstories. Okay, both Martell and Melody. And I honestly feel like the show should focus more on the authentic interactions between the cast members versus production-made storylines. The storylines that I saw in the trailer were not interesting to me. I am not as interested in Marcel and Tisha's relationship as I am interested in was interested in Melody's and Martell's relationship. So to try to make up this cheating storyline with Marcel and Tisha, it won't have the same pull for me or interest to me, because I never saw them as this dynamic, amazing couple to watch. And I'm not saying that they're not worth a damn because they're not as interesting as Martell and Melody. I do respect their marriage. I respect the fact that all the cast members value marriage in a sense, or they respect the institution of marriage and family and community. I do appreciate that, especially millennials and Gen X. That's something that's rare in our community. So I do commend them for holding their marriage together and wanting to show good examples of marriage and relationship. Good. I say good, but okay, good. Okay. And then you guys want to say, oh, their marriage is not good. They want to show something beyond the ratchet. I appreciate that. But if the show had initially focused on Marceau and Tisha, it may not have been as popular, honestly. Marceau and Tisha are not leading cast members. If they had pitched a reality show to Carlos King 5 or 6 years ago, I don't think he would have picked it up. The pull and the drawer of this show was Martell and Melody's relationship, period. And now that they're divorced, I think that production is missing an opportunity for Martell and Melody to have a conversation with Dr. Francis, because he's been there from the very beginning, about their relationship, why it fell apart, how they felt during that whole process, how their individual upbringings affected the dynamics of their relationship. They kind of hinted at it a little bit in seasons 1 and 2, a little bit, wee bit, but not much. I don't know if Melody has seen Dr. Francis, honestly, since season 2. We haven't watched a scene with her and him, from my recollection. In season 3, I do recall Martell speaking with Dr. Francis about his marriage ending and why he would not change anything or do anything differently. I think now will be a great opportunity for him to unpack that statement, right? If they're going to keep rehashing things about the past, about the cheating accusations, which I think are, at this point, worthless. It's not worth discussing that at this point, honestly, because it's over. But I do think that for the sake of their relationship going forward and the authenticity of the show, I think that they should stop beating around the bush about why their marriage fell apart from their personal perspectives. Dr. Francis is a perfect intermediary for this discussion because he was there with them from the very beginning. I remember in season, I think 1 or 2, Melody talked about how Martell needed too much of her attention, too much of her time. I honestly think that, when Martell and Melody get together, they focus so much on who did what wrong, who made what mistakes, blaming each other for what happened years ago. They're missing a golden opportunity to have an honest discussion. It could be a counseling sessions or a few counseling sessions. It could be a retreat. I don't know. But they're missing the opportunity to really unpack what happened in their relationship, because they keep rehashing the same arguments over and over again about who cheated when, why. Okay, let's nip it in the bud. And I think that will bring back some of the authenticity of the show. I also think that the cast members should discuss how Martell and Melody's divorce affected their relationships. Not with Carlos King being the mediator or the facilitator of that conversation, but with a counselor or therapist facilitating that conversation. Because a counselor or therapist has the tools and the knowledge to have these difficult conversations in a way that's productive. The cast may not feel as threatened or attacked by someone like Dr. Francis as they would YouTube content creator, right? And so I think that for the sake of the show going forward, Carlos King needs to take a step back. And I'm not an expert at this. I'm not a production manager. I've never worked in TV or film. It's just my opinion, okay? Just my opinion. I think that he should have the cast take a step back, the original 6 members, and film discussions with Dr. Francis, right? Maybe Dr. Francis is booked and busy because of the show. I don't know. That's a good thing. But yeah, maybe he could, film some really intimate discussions between Martell and Melody if they want to, because everything's already out there. We got sex tapes, we got infidelity, we got, it's just a lot. So a lot has already been exposed or discussed. But if they feel comfortable, I think that he should film a few sessions, few conversations, a couple of episodes of Martell and Melody reviewing the end of their marriage, and also perhaps reflecting on some of the sessions they had in the past, right? And that's another thing about the show that I liked. I liked the fact that this Black couple was going to a Black therapist and a Black counselor to help them resolve their issues, which is not very common in our community. So I'm not saying that it's never been done on TV before, but you rarely see, those types of scenes on reality TV or TV period. So I really appreciated that about this show. The level of authenticity and transparency that the cast members had with the audience, okay? I'm not saying that the cast members should spill their guts, but apparently, the guts have already been spilled. So I feel like it would be a good idea for Carlos to film a few sessions with Melody and Martell, but then also a few sessions with the cast members. Maybe they can go on a retreat. They tried this last season, I believe. I think Tisha, Marceau, Kimmy, Maurice, and Tiffany and Lou went. I don't think Tiffany and Lou should have been there. I think that Martell, Melody, Marceau, Maurice, Kimmy, and Tisha should have gone. And not necessarily to discuss their marriage as a group, but their friendships, how the show affected their friendships. They discuss this briefly on the reunion, but not too much in detail. I know that they have to keep some secrets under the belt so that the show retains some mystery. All the tea isn't spilled in the beginning. I understand this. But when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, why is Miss Nail talking about this affair or cheating that Melody may have done 3 years ago? I think she's a doctor. I think she is. I don't know what her doctorate is in. But why is she talking about this now? Like 2 years after their divorce. Like, that topic is dead. Not dead in the sense of like it's not really relevant in that regard, but it's like arguing about it is redundant and stupid. It's not going to go anywhere. The discussion won't go anywhere. I think that this discussion will be more productive if it's being mediated by Dr. Francis, a counselor, because perhaps they'll feel less defensive. Martell and Melody will feel less defensive or triggered if they're in a clinical setting versus them being out at a restaurant discussing the same, or wherever they were, discussing the same thing years later. Like, it's not productive at this point. I think, honestly, Carlos King is focusing on this Martell Melody cheating storyline again, because that is the only way that Martell and Melody can exist as a couple. So, like, by talking about the past and by rehashing the past, we, the audience or production, is artificially trying to recreate or reimagine or fantasize about them still being together. That's what I think is happening, because we're still talking about who cheated on who. This is what, season 6 maybe? I don't even know. I lost track. But we've had this discussion about Martell and Melody cheating for many, 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 many episodes. And I think that Carlos is trying to artificially recapture the magic that was them that was Martell and Melody's relationship by doing this. As long as we can force them to have a discussion about each other, to talk about each other, to think about the past, we can capitalize on the magic that was their relationship. And I think that may also be one of the reasons why some people in the audience are so invested in being angry with Martell. It's like they don't want to move on from him being the evil villain. Now I'm going to say this. Martell was a dumpster fire husband. I don't think that they should get back together. But I don't think anybody who's ever watched this show could honestly say that Martell and Melody did not have natural chemistry. Like, people who didn't like Melody was rooting for her and Martell to stay together. That is how authentic their connection was. It was very toxic, of course, but it was authentically toxic, right? And I think it became authentically toxic because they both believed that they were doing the best that they could in their marriage. And they were both dissatisfied in that relationship. But they looked perfect on paper. And so, again, I think that, just to go back to my original point, Carlos King is going to keep rehashing the same old storyline to give the illusion that Martell and Melody are still together. Even after a couple years, Martell and Melody not being together feels unnatural to people. When I look at them together physically, they look like they belong together. But he's toxic as hell. And a narcissist, in my opinion. So that's the conflict. The best stories have a complicated plot. The conflict isn't as black and white as people would assume. It's almost like Martell is the perfect supervillain and Melody is the perfect superhero. This is like a Tyler Perry play on reality TV. But again, you could tell that they actually loved each other at some point, that they had natural chemistry and natural synergy, period. No one can deny that. And I think that Carlos is trying to recapture some of that original magic by rehashing the old storylines. To avoid having to do this over and over again, season after season, I do think that he should broker a discussion or have some scenes where Melody and Martell are speaking with Dr. Francis or another therapist about what's happening in their relationship. That could be the subplot, right? Speak about the beginning, the middle, and the end of their marriage. Because they're still talking about it to this day, but they're not talking about it in a productive way. I know that Martell's going to therapy and so is Melody, but I'm not sure if they're going to post-marital counseling together. And I'm confident that they're not, because if they were, I don't think they'd be talking about who cheated on who years later. The fact that Martell said he was trying to manifest Melody again, and Melody, called him sweetie. I'm sorry. I was like, what? I haven't watched the show in 2 months. And I'm not going to go on, anybody's platform to read. I'm not doing it. I just don't feel like it. I'm not watching the show. I'm not going back to nothing. I just don't want to do it. Because I don't want to be re-triggered again. But when Martell wore those flowers and had her ring on his finger, I was like, what? What is going on right now? What are we doing here? I'm confused. And I'm going to intentionally stay confused because I'm going to leave it alone. But the fact that in one of the scenes in the trailer, Martell's wearing the ring that Melody gave him on his wedding finger, he brought some roses, flowers, whatever. Some flowers. I forgot what they were. I was too irritated to focus on what type of flowers they were. I was like, what? They're cool again? And I'm okay with that, but I'm like, what happened in 6 weeks? And I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to do research. I'm going to move forward with the show and watch it, maybe. Because we've been here before. We have been here before with Martell and Melody making up, going on vacations together, trying to piece things out, and then it just collapses into hell again. Like, their relationship is kind of sort of the same as it was when they were married. Sans the sex and living together, and they were other people, but the makeup to break up hot and cold, the energy is, I don't know what to say. But I thought that scene was ridiculous. I don't think Melody wants to get back with Martell, but again, I do think that the show is overproduced. And I think it's overproduced at this point because Carlos The success of the show was a gift and the curse, because the show got more popular after the stars of the show got divorced. So now we have Love and Marriage Huntsville without the two main cast members being married. So I think Carlos is trying to regroup and figure out how he can recapture that original magic that Melody and Martell had in seasons 1 and 2 when they were together. But so much stuff has happened. There's so much water under the bridge between them that I don't know what to say. Like, seeing them together in the same room is complicated because they look good together, but it's like toxic as hell. They're very magnetic together. They look good on screen together. They look like they belong together physically, but they don't. They do not. I would not wish Martell on my worst enemy, and Melody deserves better. But we cannot deny that they look good on TV. So years ago, there was a TV show called A Different World. And in one of the scenes, or one of the episodes of the show, Whitley was going to marry Byron, who was like the successful politician. And Dwayne pretty much sabotaged their wedding. Okay? He said, marry me instead. And in real life, that would not have gone well for Dwayne or Whitley. That would have been a disaster. But on TV, people wanted to see Whitley and Dwayne together because of their history. I think the same thing is happening with Martell Melody. Like, it would be good for TV for them to get back together, but in real life, it would be horrible. So now Carlos is conflicted because, he mentioned this during the last reunion when he was crying about Martell's life falling apart and him missing Melody. I do think that Martell wants to get back with Melody. I really do. I do think that Melody may have some latent, dormant, hidden, subconscious feelings for Martell. I'm gonna hear a bunch of mess from that comment. I know already. But I didn't say she wants to get back with him at all. But I honestly don't think this show will survive much longer if Melody and Martell are not together. But I don't want them to get back together. So this is the catch-22. Because the show is not interesting without them as the main couple doing whatever they do. It's not. Now, I don't want to see them arguing all the time. It's very toxic and annoying. I think for the benefit of the show, to extend its longevity, that Martell and Melody should be given the space to have open, honest conversations about their marriage in the company of a counselor or therapist. And this could be, again, a subplot of the show. Kind of sort of like Kimmy and Maurice's relationship, in a sense, right? It wouldn't be a focal point of the show, but it's something that, will satisfy the audience members. Some audience members need to see them together because they look good on screen together. I'm not going to lie about that. I can't lie about that. That's the facts. I don't like seeing them argue, but I don't want Melody back with Martell. I don't think he deserves her. I don't think she should get back with him, and I don't think she wants to. I think, again, she has a soft spot for him. They were married for a long time. There was something in him that she saw that resonated with her, that she loved about him, right? And nasty, gnarly things have happened since then. But apparently, from the preview trailer scene that I saw, they've pieced things up, which is a good thing, considering all the nasty mess that was happening on social media. I'm happy that they're taking control of their relationship and trying to be more friendly, amicable, even civil towards each other, because it's good for the show. Real talk. Martell and Melody filming together is good for the show, whether they're arguing or not. I prefer them not to argue because that's not good for their children or their own mental health. But they are a very attractive couple. And I'm not just talking about their physical appearance. Their energies are just so magnetic together. They look good on film. And the show looks like it's flailing without that primary storyline, without Martell and Melody's relationship being at the forefront. Even after they divorced, the topic of their divorce became the main focus of the show, to the point where it's like it was beating a dead horse. I think to turn the page on this chapter for once and for all, it will be good. For the last time, I'll say this, I'm repeating myself over and over again. But if it hasn't happened already, because I haven't watched the show in several weeks, and it could have happened, and if it has, I apologize. I haven't watched the show again in 2 months. But it'll be good for Martell and Melody to have, open and honest discussions about before they got married, during their marriage, and after their divorce with Dr. Francis or somebody who is a counselor or mediator. I think that would be healthy for their relationship and the show itself moving forward, because it would satisfy the audience's desire to see them together. If the audience's need, some of the audience members, not all you guys, so some of you guys don't like Martell and you can't stand him and you don't want to be with her at all. I get that. But if some of the audience's need to see Martell and Melody together physically is not satisfied, they're going to keep rehashing old dead drama from the past to give themselves the illusion those old situations are of any consequence today, and they're not, because Martell and Melody are now divorced. We know why they divorced. We don't think they should get back together, and that is it. Miss Nell asking Melody, did you cheat on him when you were married? To me is like, what? If she did, so what? It was her obligation to do so. Martell had formed a karmic tie or a soul tie with another woman who he was sleeping with for 5 years. What Melody did after that is inconsequential. It does not matter anymore. I wish we would stop talking about if Melody cheated in the past. If she did what she was supposed to do. Okay? She handled her business. It wasn't like she was flaunting it in his face. She didn't do all that. But she got her needs met just like, Martell was getting his needs met. And I think that Martell is still talking about, well, Melody cheated on me too, because he wants to place the responsibility of the divorce on her, as if he was perfect. So he was justified in cheating for 5 years because she had somebody give her oral sex one time. That is his mentality. That's why when he even asked Melody if he cheated, because that would be Martell's way of justifying what he did after having a 5-year affair with a woman he got pregnant 3 times and had a baby with. Like, what are you talking about? That's not important. That's not relevant. They need to stop talking about this and figure out another way of getting Martell and Melody to be together on screen without having productive conversations about why their marriage ended and how they can move forward for the sake of their children and the show, honestly, because the show won't survive if they can't film together. Just real talk. Lou and Tiffany aren't that interesting. Maurice and Kimmy, Marcel and Tisha, absolutely not. Kiki and her, no. Stormy, no. So they don't have that it factor. That's why everybody on TV is not a reality TV star. That is why so many singers and actors don't sell records and they're not superstars, because they don't have that it factor. Just because you're on a hit TV show doesn't mean you have that it factor. Martell and Melody have that it factor, period. And the supporting cast, Marceau, Tisha, Maurice, and Kimmy, they were good in their lanes. They're not good as stars of the show. They don't have that thing. I'm sorry. It's not personal. Everybody can be a star. Martell and Melody have natural star quality. And again, I think that is why Carlos keeps rehashing the same storylines, because that is the only reason why people are interested in the show. As a matter of fact, they're only interested in the cast members' relationship to Martell and Melody. So if Melody and Martell are not on the show, it's not going to last for much longer. It's not. Not saying that the other cast members have not helped the show to become successful too. They have contributed, but they're not the stars of the show. Being a star is a whole different animal. That's an energy thing. You can't fake that. And Martell and Melody have that formula. When they were a couple, that's where they were able to accomplish so much together, and so many people were invested in their marriage. Even people who couldn't stand her or him wanted to see them win together. This is why Carlos King said he cried when he first met Melody and Martell, because they were the perfect reality TV couple on every level. He didn't even know about their affairs. It's just that their dynamic is just so exciting and intoxicating. And so again, for the final time, instead of rehashing the past for no reason, with no productive aim, facilitate conversations with Dr. Francis and Melody. Have them honestly discuss their marriage in a safe space. One of my favorite episodes of this show was when they were on this cabin retreat. I think it was in season 1. Season 1 and 2 are a blur for me. I think it was in season 1. They were on a cabin retreat, and they were having like these really casual, friendly discussions. But I love the energy and the dynamic between the cast members. I like stuff like that. I like listening to the cast have adult conversations about their real lives, mental health issues, cheating, whatever. I love that. When they went on a trip to Las Vegas, they have a really natural chemistry, the cast members. When Destiny first came on the show, I loved the way that she and Melody interacted with each other. I loved their friendship that they had, right? I liked when they went to Las Vegas and they were in the chapel because Tisha wanted a vow renewal Like, I liked little small scenes like that show the natural synergy and the chemistry between the cast members. Now, to me, it's a bunch of manufactured drama. I do find it interesting that the reality show is not being discussed on the reality show. The show itself is a part of the cast. And I'm assuming this is difficult terrain for Carlos and the producers to navigate. The show itself influences the dynamic between the cast members. I think that should be discussed during the retreat as well. Not just during the reunion, but on group trips, right? Again, having Dr. Francis attend to give them some friendship counseling or relationship counseling or post-marital counseling. I don't know. But yeah, rehashing the same old storylines to pretend that Melody and Martell are still together, that's corny to me. I feel like it's a desperate attempt to keep the show fresh and interesting. But if it's not authentic, it's not going to work. Regardless, the show's main attraction for me was the authenticity. It was the natural chemistry between the cast members. It was the nuanced conflicts that they had. It wasn't as simple as, oh, he bad, she good, he wrong, she right. Because, to be honest, in seasons 1 and 2, Martell looked like the picture-perfect father on TV. That's what he looked like. I didn't believe it, but that's what he looked like, right? A handsome guy. He's with his kids all the time. He's helping out around the house. He's allowing, quote unquote, allowing his wife to run their companies. He's not intimidated by her success. Like, they look good as a couple. Like, he seemed like the perfect husband, in a sense. But then when he had this other side of him that was revealed, that made the dynamic more complicated because Martell, for many people, was more likable than Melody. But he was doing the most dirt. Melody was not well liked in seasons 1 and 2. But she was the one who was being abused in that marriage. I mean, it was a fascinating story. And Carlos King knew it. And he was smart to capitalize on it. But again, if the show is going to survive, they have to move away from these old, dry storylines. And I'll be honest. The new cast members, if you're not part of the original 6, I think they need to cut down some of their screen time until they can regroup and figure out the new dynamic between the original 6 cast members. They tried to do this, I think, in season 4 after Martell got in a fight with Marceau and Maurice and Melody confronting Miss Wanda at Destiny's store launch. I think that they were attempting to regroup at that point, but the obese elephant in the room is the fact that this show is not interesting without Melody and Martell's relationship being at the forefront. It's not. And I don't know how Carlos is going to figure this out. He is not in an enviable position. This is hard for him to do. Again, the divorce was bittersweet. It was a catch-22 because the ratings went through the roof. But there's a risk that the show burned out too quickly because Martell and Melody pretty much divorced by the end of season 2, I believe. The end of season 2. Yeah, that was during COVID. So this show has been running on the fumes of that explosive divorce since then. And I think it's petering out. This is an interesting conversation for Martell and Melody to have too, because I believe this show is their main bread and butter. I know Melody has other business ventures that are successful, but this is a decent check, I believe, for the cast members, right? Melody has 4 babies to take care of. This is good money for her. I'm assuming after season 5, they're making way more money. And especially for Martell too. I don't know what kind of discussion they would have as former business partners and former spouses and, co-parents for 4 children, how they want to move forward to keep the show going, because they're both benefiting from the show financially. Although it may be mentally and emotionally stressful for Melody, I'm hoping that they're getting paid adequately at this point after season 5 of being like the number 1 show on OWN. They should be getting bigger checks now. And I think that may influence some of the decisions that Martell and Melody make behind the scenes. I'm just speculating here. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. It wouldn't be the wrong thing to do if you're on a hit show and and Carlos is like, yo, it ain't working without y'all. Like, I need y'all to get it together or something. I don't know if you want to say that, but the show is not going to survive without Martell and Melody, period. The other cast members do not have the star power. There is nothing wrong being a supporting cast member. Everybody can't be Kenya Moore and Nene Leakes. Like, some people are better in more supportive roles than leading roles. That's all. Martell and Melody can't even be a supportive role if they wanted to. They don't have that type of energy. Both of them have natural star power. But their star power is amplified when they're together. The star power is not as intense when they're separated. That is what makes this so fascinating. Yes, Melody can still get, people to watch the show without Martell being there, and vice versa. But people love seeing them interact. That is the secret sauce. Them being together, filming together, talking to each other, looking at each other. It just is what it is. Whether they're arguing, whether they're hugging, whether they're talking, whether they're friendly. I remember when Martell and Melody, after the divorce, they first, not reconciled, but they first started to piece things up a little bit. And Melody was wearing that bob and that black dress. And Martell had unexpectedly brought the kids to watch her host the gig. And the natural chemistry was so evident that people in the audience forgot how toxic and evil Martell is. And then Carlos did a flashback montage of their marriage. And then the audience was like, oh, I miss them being together. Martell, you ain't shit. Why can't they work things out? Nonsense like that. I was like, hell fucking no. No. But again, I understand why they felt that way, because I felt the same way when they got divorced. They were the ideal couple on paper and even physically. They were equally yoked in that regard. Maybe not intellectually, but they both have, they're both attractive people in their own right, period. And so, yeah. Were there any other scenes of the preview that I thought were interesting? I think Melody mentioned that during their marriage, Martell never made her have an orgasm during sex. That's not something that's abnormal. It happens a lot with women. That's not something to shame anybody over, because some women need more stimulation than penetration to have a climax. So I don't think that should be used as a weapon or as an insult to anybody. I wonder if that made Martell feel inadequate, though, because if Arion was able to enjoy Martell per se, did he feel like she was more into him than Melody was? I don't know. Did that hurt his ego? I have no idea. But that would also be an interesting conversation to have with Dr. Francis. I remember in season 1, Melody mentioned that Martell would give her oral. That was something that she demanded or required. I remember that in season 1. And she wasn't as generous towards him, perhaps. I think she even admitted she didn't like doing it like that. So maybe he felt like that wasn't fair. I don't know. There are many layers. I do think it's unrealistic to believe that a 14-year marriage collapsed because of infidelity only. I think that so many other things happened in their marriage that they haven't really dove into because the focus is on infidelity. But a lot of things were going on between them that I think we have not had the opportunity to explore. We talked about the high points of their marriage as far as the infidelity and the verbal abuse and the financial abuse and, their business license, the builder's license that Melody had. But the show, in my opinion, did not really explore the meat and the bones as to why this marriage really dissolved. They were touching on it a little bit with Dr. Francis. That's why I wanted him to come back to the show and discuss the other things that went wrong in their marriage besides the infidelity. The infidelity was a symptom of a larger problem that I don't think that they really addressed. We've speculated about it. I've speculated about it, about Martell's insecurities and so on, but I don't think they've ever told their own story about that aspect of their relationship. And then in the trailer, there was a scene where Tisha was kind of sort of alluding to the fact that she might be pregnant. I don't know, and I don't care. Honestly, I don't think she's a cheater. I don't think that she'd be sloppy with it. She knew Martell got a vasectomy. I think this is like a half-assed attempt to be a bootleg Martell Melody. That's not important. I don't care if she cheated on him. Again, she was supposed to cheat on him if she did. I think Kiki mentioned something about Marceau having a threesome with somebody. Again, at this point, that storyline has been dragged out for so long, for 5 or 6 seasons. At this point, I don't care unless they discuss that topic in the context of Tisha accusing Melody of trying to ruin her relationship when the whole time she knew that Marceau was cheating. And if they were to get into that topic again, it shouldn't last for more than 1 episode. Like, it's a dead horse. It's over. It's over. That's over. Please. it is done. For me anyway. For other people, again, you guys can watch it if you want to. I'm not telling you what to watch or what to like, but I'm just giving my personal opinion about my feelings about the show. Maurice mentioned only having sex twice a month. That is a bit sparse, but that's normal for any marriage, I think. Most marriages. I think, except Melody Martell, I think they were getting it in at least once a week. At least. They got 4 babies back to back. So, even 5. So, I don't think that Martell would tolerate twice a month. Unless Melody was sick or whatever. Or she just had a baby and she needs 8 weeks to recover. I don't think that would have happened. But Kimmy just got over cancer. And so, she needs to heal and recover. And she's older. It is what it is. Maurice needs to get over it. But someone like him would say that they're justified in cheating because they're only having sex 2 times a month, especially since he's a Libra. And a lot of Libras are hypersexed. I'll discuss why at another time. But honestly, I don't think that Kimmy would leave if Maurice does cheat. Considering the fact that she kept calling Martell a nice guy while he was having a 5-year affair on his wife and made a baby, I think that Kimmy would make excuses for Maurice. Because she values his company. At a certain age, it's not about fidelity or loyalty. It's about company, companionship, having someone to travel with, someone to grow old with. So I don't think she'd be quick to jump into a divorce because she's actually very vulnerable right now. But I don't see Maurice being faithful to her for too long if he's only having sex with her twice a month. Okay? And so yeah, to close it out, I do believe that for the show to survive, Melody would have to film more scenes with Martell's marble floor-headed ass. And they should have opportunities to discuss their marriage with a counselor or therapist. And then also to discuss their friendship with the rest of the cast members. And I think that's it. I look forward to hearing your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will speak to you soon.